All right, this is a tough one. This one is going to be a tough one to talk about. I don't think I've talked about this very much, even though it's been a huge part of my life for a long, long time. And that is making sure we got the wind filter on. That is weight loss. I lost 130 pounds. Okay, so it's been something that I know that it is in my life path to help people with. I know there's so many out there that are struggling with weight loss, and not even weight loss, but body image, right? This is something that I specialize in because this is something that I've struggled with for most of my life. So I'm just going to dive deep into the levels of consciousness today to give you a kind of a perspective and to see that, oh, there's a really tangible way in how this works, and that anybody can do it, that you can do it. So it's interesting because this has been kind of one of the biggest traps that society has set for us, is making us feel like we're not worthy, we should be ashamed, we should feel guilty about not taking care of ourselves a certain way, or not being at the pivotal, kind of like the top of the pyramid of our own bodily journey, our own fitness. And then that results in a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, like I'm saying, a lot of fear that people aren't going to be liked. And this is actually a huge reason why I struggled with, for a long time, kind of being socially kind of anxious, I guess you could say, because I was basing how other people were going to perceive me, because a lot of the times, to be honest, people do perceive you a certain way if you look a certain way. All right. So we see that if you're externally motivated by how people are going to perceive you, then a lot of times you will suffer no matter what, because it's always an illusion, because we don't even know. And that's straight up fear, because with fear, it's in the future of, if this happens, then blank, and then you feel anxious. Right? That's why that happens in the first place. And we're out here in Flagstaff, by the way. Flagstaff, Arizona, and it is beautiful, but it is windy today. So if she's windy, nothing we can do about it, So let's dive in, and I'm just gonna probably have the levels of consciousness somewhere along on the screen to kind of give you a map, right? A map that you can use to recognize, this is where I'm at, and this is how I transcend it. All right, so let's dive in. So weight loss. I started my weight loss journey when I was overweight for a lot of high school, and I really struggled with body image, and I was actually reinforced by people that I should be ashamed because I was bullied. As a kid, I was bullied for how I looked. I was never bullied for how I was in school, because that really wasn't a thing. It was more about, people really bully you if you're overweight, just basically on how you look. They don't even care about how you're doing, right? But I still had some guilt, and I'm just gonna straight up be completely honest with you. I failed Algebra 1 in high school, and it's funny because algebra and math and fractal geometry and spiral dynamics and tractor fields and all of this is like some of my favorite stuff now, but I just didn't like it back then. I didn't like how it was taught, and I wasn't interested. But now I love math, and I love the scientific endeavor, and I consider myself a metaphysicist in a respect, because that's what I'm doing. I'm exploring the universe. I'm exploring how it works, why it works, and all of these things. But I'm also in the subjective field of love, and I'm not just knowing about it, but I am becoming it by realization. Even though I already was it, I'm also realizing that I am it at the same time. And that comes and goes in waves, and that's healing, that's realization. So I don't know where Jax went. Jax, come here. For those that don't know you, that I'm out here in the rooftop tent with Jax and Jesse. But Jax just likes to run off, so. But let's get into the video, right? I don't want to be just all over the place. I already am. That's how it goes. But so with my weight loss, I started in high school. I was bullied. I felt ashamed, right? Shame is the lowest level. And when you feel ashamed of yourself, you become that. So I became the shame. And I identified with that shame. And so I kind of retreated. I retreated into the video game arena because in the video game arena, I'd always been really interested in kind of magic. Like I played, for those that know, I played World of Warcraft because World of Warcraft was that game where it felt like you were in another world. You could be a shaman, you could be a mage, you could just be all of these things that reality wasn't providing for me at that point. So I was in that world and I really was not really a part of society. I didn't really go party, I didn't really do anything because I was ashamed. And I felt guilty. Right? It was a combination. Sometimes I would just feel guilty for how I looked, and I didn't really want to associate with people because I felt like they would reject me. And also the same with shame. So focused on my pain that I couldn't even do anything. I didn't have enough energy. So as I transitioned into the end of high school, I was at that point my heaviest, which is 315 pounds. And I'm drinking cacao just to keep me open, because this is something I really haven't shared yet. So I ended high school overweight, and I was really ashamed and really guilty. I felt really guilty about who I was. And then I knew that at some point I wanted to, not at some point, but I knew that I wanted to look different. Right? So I would jump up to desire. Sometimes I would have a little bit of desire. I would feel that desire. I want to look this way. And then all of a sudden, I would just jump down back into apathy or hopelessness, because it goes shame, guilt, hopelessness, fear, and then desire. But I would jump from desire. I would get up into desire sometimes when I was feeling good. You know, sometimes you just feel good. And then I would feel fear that it was going to be too hard, and then it was hopeless because it was too hard. It felt so overwhelming that I couldn't do it. So I felt all of these emotions and I felt all of this pain. But then at some point, I realized that this shame isn't helping me. Being ashamed and feeling guilty about the past, it's not helping me. It's not. You can't do anything. I can't do anything about it. And this was my mindset back then. Now I see that I was innocent because I didn't know any better, right? All beings are innocent. This human experience is tough. So it felt good to eat, and that's why I was eating, because I wasn't getting any sort of, I wasn't really getting any sort of happiness anywhere else because I didn't really have that many friends. I wasn't feeling loved by my parents. They were divorced and they were arguing all the time. And so I just felt, I'm messing with my shirt now because I'm starting to feel self-conscious. I feel like when I talk about these things, sometimes I feel it so deeply because I remember it. So I felt like shame's not going to help me. Being ashamed isn't going to help me. Now I realize that I'm innocent, and feeling guilt. Also, now I realize that there was not a mistake. There was just a consequence, right? This is what I teach people in my one-on-ones in the course and whatever. That there's something that happens, and then because this happened, then at some level this is going to be the result. And it's not bad. Like, for example, I eat a lot of food. Then if I ate so much food that I was in a surplus of 2,000 calories a day, the consequence is that I'm going to look this way and I'm going to gain this weight. But it's not necessarily the same for everybody, right? It's also comes down to your belief that you'll gain weight. And a lot of people are programmed to where they can't gain weight. They can just eat whatever they want, and then they can't gain weight. And they're like, what do you mean you're overweight? I can't even gain any weight. And I really believe that comes down to conditioning and programming to believe in a certain thing. And my grandpa, both my grandpas were extremely overweight. My mom was overweight. My dad wasn't really. But I had a lot of relatives that were, so I kind of just fell into this, well, if I eat a certain way, then I'm going to look like them. And then I ended up looking like them, essentially. And I really believe that came down to what I thought was going to happen. And so I realized this, and I decided. I remember one day I decided. At some point in this journey, you got to decide to yourself that, first I felt fear, like I'm moving. I'm kind of feeling grief now that I look this way and that I lost all of this time, because if I progress, then I'm going to lose all this time. And I was feeling grief because I had to work on myself so hard, and a lot of fear. The thing is a lot of something that will drive somebody that is having body image issues, that drove me, was fear that I'm never going to look the way that I want unless I take action. And that is one of the hugest realizations that you can have at a low level. Because, getting to willingness where you're doing it because it's your purpose and you want to fulfill your potential in your body, that looks so far away. It's so far away when you are in lower levels. You can't even see that. So if fear is the thing that gets you going, I don't want to look this way for the rest of my life. And then you get at it. That's what I did. I moved to Indiana. I was in Michigan. I graduated high school in Michigan. Then I moved to Indiana with my aunt. And I said to myself, I don't want to look this way. And I'm afraid that I'm going to look this way the rest of my life. And then I moved up into desire, right? I didn't feel too much grief. So I moved into desire. And I said to myself, I desire to look this way. I want to look good. I want to look good. And I want it for selfish reasons. And sometimes, hey, if that gets it done, that gets it done. So then I desired this law of attraction area, and I started to, mess with the law of attraction and get into my desires. And I really started to practice, feeling good. Really started to see myself as, basically how I look now. And I'm not jacked by any means right now. I'm just in this area where I feel like I'm decent, right? That's so hard to say without sounding like you're in the theme of pride. But you're just content with where you are and you love yourself, right? That's really more of what I was trying to get at that point. So then I progressed into desire. And I'm desiring to look this way. But I'm angry. I'm getting into anger, which is the next step up. I'm angry because I have to work this hard, and I'm angry because I looked that way in the first place. How could I let myself get that low? That's one of the realizations of anger that will absolutely motivate you. How could I let myself get that low? So I'm angry. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use that to change. I'm going to change. I'm going to see a lot of males, in my opinion, we see the masculine will get there a lot quicker to anger. A lot of feminine don't want to feel anger because they think females aren't supposed to feel anger. But that's not true. So we'll see that we progress into a higher level of kind of anger. We're using anger. A lot of people in the gym are angry. I mean, if you go to the gym, like any commercial gym, you'll see people in there are just slamming them weights down. Why? Because their baseline vibration, a lot of the times people in the fitness industry, I got an itch on my nose. What the heck? A lot of people in the fitness industry are either in anger or they're in pride. And if they're coaches, if they're trainers, they might be encouraged because then they're selfless. But if you're lifting, a lot of the times, and you see people slamming down weights, that's more of a pride. I'm prideful of who I am, where I'm at. I'm prideful of how much weight I can lift. I'm angry. You're listening to specific music, metal music, and that's going to get you going. And, a lot of times those songs are just like that. So then that's where I was at. I mean, I started to power lift. I really started to enjoy, after years, I started to enjoy weightlifting and doing these things. And so then I changed my major from business management, which was just I didn't know what else to do. I changed, and that's what my dad did. So he did hotel management. But anyways, it's a progression into the next level, right? Which is I want to help people. So then at some point, the anger and pride realizes that it's limiting itself, that it doesn't want to feel separate, right? So this is the archetype of the person who is doing it for themselves and who wants to feel loved, but they think if they're really hard, they lift a lot, then people will like them. But then when you get to courage, right, you jump. Kind of in the weight loss journey, when I lost the first 50 pounds, it was very, very much desire, right? And then I got to a point where I stopped losing weight, and then I felt angry. I'm like, why am I not losing weight? So then I tried harder, and then I lost more weight, and then it worked, and then I felt pride for doing that. Nice. And then at some point, I realized that it was a weakness to be hard. Like it really wasn't helping me. And by hard, I mean like the slamming things down, just listening to hardcore music. It didn't feel good to me anymore. And I kind of started to step into spiritual material, and I realized that I just want to help people. I want to help people. And I knew that from a young age. From a young age, I wanted to teach. But every time that I thought about teaching, and the only teaching I knew at that point was school, I thought, well, these people don't get paid anything. And that's what I was told by multiple teachers. They don't get paid anything. And so then that was that. And then I saw that I could teach this. So then I switched my major to kinesiology and strength and conditioning specialization. And I was going to go for my certificate to be certified. I don't remember the name now because it's years later of the specific one. It's initials and certified strength and conditioning coach, maybe. I don't know. There was a certification. But I moved to Phoenix, right? And I was going to college in Michigan. I moved back to Michigan. I missed a little bit because I don't want this video to be super, super long. And maybe we'll just do parts, right? Maybe we'll cut this into parts. We got the hair blowing. The hair's going crazy. If you knew how much time that I spent trying to get my hair to go back into something that looked relatively presentable, you would be so surprised. Because every time you put it in a bun, all my long-haired friends, every time you put it up, it doesn't want to stay. And then I'm looking up here and I see, oh man, it's all over the place. So that comes from a place where I'm feeling like I'm talking about a vulnerable subject, and sometimes when you talk about vulnerability, you feel like you're back in it. Those memories are coming back of what my body used to feel like. And this is kind of what realization is about. I realize at this point that I'm identified with my soul. I'm not identified with my body. I'm not identified with my mind. So when these thoughts come up, now I can see that, oh, it doesn't really matter how my hair looks, right? Back in the day, I would stop the video. I would make a new video because I would be so concerned about how people were perceiving me that I couldn't look this way. And that's why a lot of people will struggle with posting online because they think they have to be perfect because they see everybody else as perfect but themselves. They fail to see the divinity within themselves. And it's all about realization, right? This is all that's happening as I'm realizing. So then at some point I realized that I was in courage and kind of neutrality. Courage because I wanted to step up and my role was going to be to help people. And the only way I knew to do that was to help them with something I was good at. And I was pretty good at weightlifting. I mean, I was deadlifting. I got up to like a 400-pound deadlift at a low weight. That was pretty good. And, my squat was not that great. But, that really doesn't matter. But I started to get pretty decent. And I thought, oh, okay, I can help people with how to do this. But then I moved to Phoenix and I took a physical therapy internship because I was starting to move away from that hardness, like I was saying, that pride. Because weightlifting is a lot about pride. I'm going to break the records. I'm going to be this. But then there are those in weightlifting that are also in willingness, they're in acceptance, but it's much more rare because willingness is more like, I'm going to pursue my greatest potential, and it's not about anything else but fulfilling my purpose, and my purpose is in this. And that could be in fitness. And so there are some that are in that. Not always, but I see a majority. So then it was encouraged in neutrality, because neutrality, I was like, all right, I'm doing everything that I can do. I'm going to school, I'm doing these things. And then I got to physical therapy because I was like, I don't really want to do strength and conditioning anymore because it feels too hard. And by hard, I mean like intense. I started to become softer, right? After I started to take it easy on myself, you'll find this in your life too. When you start to take it easier on yourself, you take it easier on everybody else. So as I would start to go to the gym and I would just relax, do your chest flies, do your pull-ups, do your ring pull-ups, or do whatever. Doesn't matter. You just start to take it easy on yourself, and you start to realize, oh, well, my body doesn't get to look this way by necessarily all of what I'm doing. It actually is a reflection of how I believe it to be. And it's a reflection of what my state of consciousness is. So if I'm in a place of love, or not even love, because love's way up there, but you're at least feeling some sort of love for yourself. It doesn't have to be a baseline, but you're starting to feel like, oh man, I'm good. I'm okay where I'm at. I'm okay with what I'm doing. Then you start to relax. And then when you start to relax and you get to a place of neutrality, you kind of take a step back and you just rest, right? And then I started to rest. I started to work. I was working as a server at Red Lobster. You make decent money doing that, by the way. It's very surprising. And that was before all of the shenanigans in the world. But then I started to get out of neutrality when I dropped out. And I told myself, okay, well, my weight loss journey, I'm kind of good where I'm at. And then once I got to that place, I got stuck at about 200 pounds. And when I got stuck at 200 pounds, I actually entered a place, because I was in neutrality, I was good. I entered a place of willingness, but then I actually stopped caring about that, because I actually started to find other passions. You see, when you take care of your body enough, and take care of it could basically mean raising your level of consciousness around or related to your body image, you start to care less, because you realize that there's so much more to reality. And looking back, a lot of the times, even still, I feel guilty because I could have done this, I could have done that. And I realize that that's an illusion. But I feel guilty because I think to myself, well, I was making YouTube fitness videos a long time ago. And now I could have been helping people the way I am now sooner. And then it would have been easier sooner because there wouldn't have been as much competition, and you have made it further doing this. And then all of this guilt comes up. And then you feel the disidentification come in. And that's when you start to realize, when you get to higher levels, that you are not these thoughts that come up. And this is where the spiritual practice comes in. Right? And so I think my hair's going crazy. The wind is hot. The sun's doing weird things to my face. What are we at, 23 minutes? Yeah, I'm going to do a part 2 with this. I'm going to charge the battery, do a part 2, and then come back. And I'm going to talk about more the spiritual, higher level, where I'm getting to now. Because we covered about up to, 3 or 4 years into the weight loss journey. And so that's not where I am now. I was about 200 pounds. And I got stuck. And so we're going to go into part 2, where the willingness came in, where I started to transcend the body, not completely, because you can't completely transcend it. And if you did, you wouldn't be here. But I started to transcend the identification with the body fully. And so I'm going to dive deep into that.